Alrighty. Hello and welcome to the Coaching Collective podcast episode 36 now. Today we are joined by Ritchie.
Hello guys, I'm so excited to class today.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today. We've got a little bit of a slight delay between our computer audio, so don't mind that. Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your own journey?
Amazing. First off, I love how you said Ritchie. I feel like no one knows my last name. Like people just know me as like Fit with Lily. So I love that you said that. Basically, I am an online coach now living in Queensland. I've pretty much lived all around Australia at this point, but living currently in Gold Coast. And I absolutely love it here. I've competed before in ICN, which was 2022 season B. Then I had pretty much the whole of 2023 off to grow. And I also traveled a little bit. I went to like Canada and Europe, but it was pretty much the season to grow because I wanted to go try a new federation, IFBB. And obviously from moving from ICN to IFBB, you have to have a lot more density. So I took a decent time off to grow. And now I'm currently in prep. I'm just under 14 weeks out now, which is just crazy. So it's going to fly by and I'm so excited this time around.
How long have you been in prep for now?
8 weeks.
Oh, really? That's so exciting. Are you doing the Queensland show?
Yeah, I'll do the Queensland State Show, which is like the 21st of April, and then I'll fly down to Melbourne to do nationals. It works well because my family lives in Melbourne. So it's kind of like friends Gold Coast, and then I'll go back down to family Melbourne.
Yeah, beautiful. Yay, I'll have a familiar face because we're flying up to Queensland to do the Queensland show and then back to Melbourne to do like the national show afterwards as well. And like,
also, like
yeah. Why did you move to Queensland?
I've wanted to move to Queensland for so long. My best friend lives here and we actually have a podcast together as well. And doing that interstate is so hard. So I kind of like made the move, but I split with like my partner and I went back to Melbourne for a bit where my family lives. And I was like, this is just not for me. The lifestyle, the weather, just the environment as well. So moving to Gold Coast was the best decision I've ever made. And I wanted to do it for like years on years. I feel like just the environment is like literally the biggest thing. Everyone, yes, does the same thing. Yes, it's quite saturated, but at the same time, it's so good being around people that like constantly push you to be and want more. I'll be never leaving.
Yeah. I sort of feel like Melbourne, in regards to like the online coaching side of everything, gives off the vibes that like, well, I've realized that it's quite a little bit like competitive. Whereas you get the vibes, say in Queensland, whereby like you want to meet up, like you want to help each other, and like do content and just like the lifestyle in general suits, I feel like the coaching so much more than Melbourne. Not to mention the weather. And like being able to bodybuild in Queensland would be so much better than Melbourne.
Well, because the very first prep I did was in Melbourne through winter. So now moving from that to Gold Coast summer prep, I'm like, wow, this is just a whole different vibe. Going from like walking the streets of Croydon when it's pouring with rain 2 degrees to now 30 degrees in the sunshine by the beach. It's a little bit easier in that regards.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, you get to be like shredded on the beach and like run around.
Like realistically, yeah.
Yeah. Like in Melbourne, you're in like this crazy condition, but like it's freezing and like you can't even show anybody. And like it's even summer here now and it's still like cold and raining most days anyway. So yeah. How do you find the gym scene compares from Melbourne to Queensland?
Okay, this is actually really interesting because I think the gym scene in Melbourne 20 times better. So much better in Melbourne because I think they have a lot more like industrial buildings. So obviously, first off, a lot bigger spaces. Queensland, they're very small. Like right now, I train at Good Life, which is not really like somewhere I want to be continuously training. I can definitely go to World Gym in Burleigh, but you're not allowed cameras or tripods or anything there, which is completely understandable, but can be so hard when like that's literally your job. So and again, both those gyms are basically that one and EMF as well. Those three are the main ones in Gold Coast and it's packed 24/7. So there's not really many industrial ones unless you like travel quite far. But in Melbourne, I was like 6 minutes from a huge one, powerhouse in Bayswater. So, I would say Melbourne, so much better for the gym scene. Unless you go to World Gym Burleigh. But again, that is so heavily busy because like it's the only gym you can really go to.
We found When we traveled to Queensland for last season for a competitor, they lived in Brisbane. The Brisbane World gyms were like 10 times better than like on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's so weird, the gym scene difference between in Melbourne and Queensland. Not to mention like the camera recording thing would be like literally the biggest pain in the ass thing ever.
Well, yeah, the only gym you're really allowed to film at in the Gold Coast right now is Good Life Bundle. So every single person with a camera and tripod goes to Good Life Bundle. So if you go to
okay.
it's like they're everywhere, which is great because you almost like feel so comfortable because everyone does it. But it's also, again, so busy. Normally you go to midday, it's a lot quieter, but no, not here. Not here.
Yeah. That's funny considering like how whenever you talk to an online coach or whoever in Melbourne, we're all saying like we want to move to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
When you do, it's so hard to like actually do your job there.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's always pros and cons to like wherever you live and wherever you go.
Yeah.
Weigh it up.
So what first sort of got you into fitness, into that sort of lifestyle, and was what sort of like turned you from that into bodybuilding?
So growing up, I did cheerleading for like years on years, probably like since year 8 to my first year of uni. And like I traveled pretty much like to the States like 4 times to compete like at Worlds and American Nationals things. Yeah. So I was like in the cheerleading scene, and again, it's very competitive, very like stage glitz and glamour, of course. And then you've also got like the training side of it too. So I found like literally all of that kind of compiled into bodybuilding. So it was like almost the perfect transition in terms of you still get that competitive edge, you still have to train hard and do all that. But I did cheer for like years and years. And then I had probably like a year and a half off, and I was like, what am I doing? I felt like I needed to train towards something, especially growing up for sports person, you get so used to being competitive. So the second you're out of that, you're like, what's the point? Why am I training? So when I got into that kind of day-to-day training schedule, I decided to run a half marathon, and that's what I was going to sign up and train for, and that's what I did. And then that kind of ended. I was like, okay, now what? And I had a multiple like friends who had competed previously, and it was always something I wanted to do, but was very like nervous. I feel like the sport's growing really fast right now in Australia, but probably like 6 years ago, to me, it wasn't as like popular as what it is now. So I was like so nervous to do it. Obviously you're in heels and a shiny bikini on stage. So telling your parents that you're literally going to be half naked on stage, smiling your body off, it's exactly the most comfortable thing, right? So I was like very nervous to do that. But then I had actually had a coach at the gym that I trained up approach me and be like, oh, you'd be like such a good fit, obviously just wanting more athletes at the end of the day, but you'll be such a good fit. I would love to basically train you up to compete. And I was like, that is my sign. That's literally what I wanted to happen. So I went with him, and then shortly after I just like moved coaches to a female coach who I'm now with, Bet Cameron, and I love her so much. I've been with her pretty much 2 years within this month, and she focuses on women's health and hormones and all of that. So I found my experience with it has been like in a very healthy way, which was like my biggest priority. And yeah, then I kind of just didn't stop from there, started growing, getting into the gym a lot more, and just kept going to get to this point now.
Yeah. Did you find a lot of what sort of like characteristics that you built from your cheerleading sort of led into the bodybuilding? Like, do you feel as though you would enjoy it as much if you didn't have the cheerleading? Like, you didn't have, say, like the monotony and the routine that you'd known prior, if that makes sense?
100%. I think cheer taught me the discipline side of it more than anything. Obviously, you're going from a team sport to individual, so that would be the biggest difference. But the discipline and the showing up on the days you don't want to do things, especially because like cheer, we trained like quite a lot, like I'd probably like say 4 to 5 times a week, doubles on Sundays. And especially like such a young age when you're trying to enjoy your life at the same time, you have to make a lot of sacrifices and do all of that. So now that's just kind of a part of who I am. If you want something bad enough, you have to make sacrifices to get to that point. So I did that through cheer, and now I'm doing that through bodybuilding. But I would say like number one is like discipline, and also literally when you don't want to do something, you literally have no choice but to do it. And just training hard as well. I always say to people, my coach's favorite phase was like tired is just a mindset. So I've adopted that from then to now, because obviously when you compete or you're prepping, you're literally tired 24/7, and you've got to almost start to believe that you're not, to be able to push through on the days where you don't feel like it. So I'd say that would be the biggest attribute.
Tired is a new mindset. I feel like I need to keep that one somewhere because I really like that saying. It reminds me of I feel like it's David Goggins who talks about sort of like your new normal. How when you're like going through, say like you're like going through prep and obviously it's getting harder, you're struggling a lot more. Like that is just your new normal and you just learn to function at that capacity.
Yep.
So, yeah, I really like that one. I feel like that's one I want to keep with me for the competitors as well.
I feel like anytime I hear a competitor say something good like that, I actually have to write it down.
Yeah.
You know what? I do keep a page, like a notes page on my phone that has like prep affirmations. So like anytime I hear something like that, I like put it down and then I read over them when like I'm doing cardio and I can't be fucked. And then like I read them and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to keep going now.
Yeah. I actually have the exact same thing. I have like notes on my phone that literally said motivational quotes and I just write them down as I go. Sometimes the days where I really don't want to train, I'll listen to like a motivational podcast or like a speech essentially. And they just have like such good one-liners. I'm like, yeah, I need to keep that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find bodybuilding like prep vlogs as well so motivating. Like big bodybuilders, like not even bikini girls, but like sometimes just like UK bodybuilders who just like throw shit around and then like I go into my session and I'm like like ready to sort of go and like rage.
100%. I know I'm trying to vlog as much as I can throughout this prep, but at the same time it's almost I've got my coaching business, I've got the podcast, and I like do Instagram a lot more. So I'm like, oh, YouTube just takes a huge step back. And it's like when I get a vlog up, I get it up. If I don't, I don't stress. But it's such a cool thing to kind of keep there for yourself to watch back. Because I even watch like the vlogs that I did like from my last prep. And it's just so interesting to see how far you've grown as well. Like thinking it all back then and you're like, wow, you actually knew nothing. Like keep going. Yeah.
Well, as like the viewer on the other side of this, during my first prep, so I competed season B 2023.
Yep.
So through winter as well. And I was actually, when I first went in, like knew nothing about bodybuilding. I started with my coach and he was just like, okay, let's compete.
Yeah.
So we just like jumped straight into it. And since I knew nothing, I was like watching vlogs when I was doing cardio. And your actual like competition vlogs were the ones I watched to like understand what the hell actually happens on comp day.
Well, it's so interesting because everyone has a different experience as well. So I feel like you have to watch multiple people's to be like, okay, I'll do that. I won't do that. Oh, that's what to expect. That's not what to expect. Because even now, like going from IC into IFBB, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm now again going in blind because I have so many different protocols, so many different things. So I feel like I have to watch different types of vlogs as well.
Yeah. How did it feel in your first season? Like obviously you did like insanely well for your first season. Going from like ICN, was it the state shows, and then obviously at nationals you won your pro card?
Yeah.
Yeah, how was that?
Like, it was crazy because I did 4 shows in the space of 5 weeks. I'm never going to do that again because by the 3rd show, I was not having it. Obviously nationals, you've got the adrenaline, you know that literally in a week you are done. So that was like fine for the final push, but we definitely, I think it was the second comp, it was a very last minute decision, which Beck was like, you're in condition, you may as well do as many shows as you can, get as much experience as you can. And at that point in time, the best decision I've made, but looking back, I was like, okay, probably won't do that again, especially leading into IFBB. You don't really do that many shows back to back, but it was definitely such a cool experience. So I did 3 different federations, A&B, NBA, and ICN. The reason I did A&B and NBA was because they rewarded more of a muscular look in comparison to ICN bikini. So for Vic show, which was my 3rd show, I actually didn't even get top 5 for bikini, which is so interesting because then a week later, I won my pro card at nationals.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting, the judging, it literally comes down to who shows up on the day 2, depending on your lineup. If you've got a softer lineup, well, they're going to judge someone softer. If you've got a harder lineup, they're going to judge someone harder. And you almost have to get to the show and figure out, okay, do I pump up? Do I crank the salt intake? Do I eat more lollies? Do I tone down the oil? Like so many different things to actually fit in with who's showing up on the day. So that was basically ICN VIX. I did very well in sports because we kind of got there like, okay, you're actually going to do better in sports. Let's go for that. So let's basically pump you up as much as possible. And she, like my coach, so she was like, you're not going to do well in bikini. I'm just letting you know now, don't expect anything, which was like probably the best thing she could have said to me. And then she was like, between Vicks and nationals, she's like, but when you look at nationals, you're going to be way too small for sport. So we have to go hard in bikini. So it's like, you've literally got to trust everything into your coach, and just do exactly what they say as much as you are like, what is actually happening. You just got to go with it. So basically going from the state show to nationals, we cut calories, increased cardio, and then pretty much reversed in the last 2 days, bumped food back up again and kind of kept that full look, but a lot smaller, and it worked. So it did very well.
Honestly, sometimes with the federations, especially between shows like from state to nationals, it can be such a guessing game because they judge criteria so differently. And that was something we found as well, even between shows, because I did A&B, ICN, NBA as well. And I did a lot better at both A&B and NBA than I did at ICN VIX.
Yeah.
It's really like you just have to go in and see sort of where you're rewarded for your own physique.
Yeah. My perception of ICN VIX is like, no matter what you look at, no matter like the criteria, like
you just don't know.
You never know. Like,
No, you don't.
Especially in Victoria, like other states, they seem to be more consistent. But there's something about ICN Vic shows that I literally go in and I'm like I don't even care what happens, like whether or not like Michael's clients place, because like I have no fucking idea like what they are looking for here. Whereas like you go to A&B, you go to NBA, and then even further, like when you go to IFBB, as soon as they come out, like you can pretty much like place them yourself.
Yeah.
And then they like place that way. Whereas ICN Vic, you look at them and you're like, yep, that girl's gonna win. And then she comes like fucking last or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely the reason why I almost like kind of wanted to move away from ICN, because it's definitely such a good starting federation and such a good experience overall. But I'm like, I feel like I want consistency, something to grow towards as well. Because in ICN, like bikini, well, you can't literally grow any more muscle. You've got to stop there unless you go to like fitness or anything like that. But if you start to go to fitness, then you lose that bikini structure. So it's like, okay, maybe I'll just transition straight to IFBB. But at the end of the day, I feel like even if you look at the results from last year IFBB, Morgan going pro in season A and Philippa going pro in season B, still completely two different physiques. You've got one who's like nice, bubbly, elegant, and then one who's like so dense and hard. So again, it's like you still don't really know, but you just got to come down to showing up as your best, and that's all you can really do.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, regardless of whether you're rewarded, you've done like this amazing thing, you've done a great off season, and you've come in with something like you can absolutely be proud of regardless.
Exactly.
Yeah. How are you feeling like moving into IFBB, obviously after doing all of like the ICN, A&B, NBA?
Yeah, I'm so excited. The posing is definitely so different. Victoria ICM posing is not like, I feel like you've got WA and Sydney and Queensland, and even their ICN posing is actually like quite good. Vic's posing, no, it's like so different. Even WA ICN, they have hands down. So it's like they've already got that attribute like down pat. So there's been so many changes that I've had to do in terms of posing, and like that's fun, pretty much like learning that from scratch again. In terms of like condition, I'm actually excited this time because I have to be like even more conditioned, but I am like, I would say the biggest thing I'm nervous for is obviously size. At the end of the day, it is like experience. I don't have the years behind me of training. I am doing it natural as well. So it's almost like coming to terms with that is you just have to bring your best possible thing. So I'm just focusing on trying to keep as much muscle as I can throughout this prep, because I feel like I know I can get in condition. It's just keeping that density there the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like there's any differences so far between that first prep you did and this prep now?
Yes, the very first, I would say the biggest thing is nutrition. The first prep I literally did like if it fits your macros. Like 12 weeks out, I would probably like have a dumpling here and there if I could scan the box, because that's what I thought was right? Like you can eat your calories, cool. But now I'm like literally like, no, I have 2 specific sources and adrenal hot chalk and Coke Zero. They're probably like my artificial sweetness throughout the day, like literally from 20 weeks out. So that would, and I only did that, I'm pretty sure, like 6 weeks out from last comp. So I'm just like making big changes there. And I feel like it's also a lot more rewarding at the end of the day when you know that you've done absolutely everything you possibly could. And it just does come down to education, because I just actually had no idea my first comp. I feel like a lot of people, did that. And my very first comp, I had pasta as the night before comp to bulk up. Like I did that for my carbs rather than rice and potato as a simple carb. So just like little things like that. That's what I'm implementing now a lot earlier. I've also noticed like my cardio is already higher than it ever was last prep. Cals have dropped a little bit faster. And I think I'm just a lot more like switched on as well. Like know what to expect. The first prep, you have no idea. So you're just literally taking it week by week. And now I just a lot more educated around everything, but also crazy because it's still my first IFBB. So I really actually don't know anything at the same time.
Yeah. Do you feel like having been through that first prep and like sort of being a bit more educated around it now, do you feel like you're tolerating it better?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. As of yesterday, I felt like I've started to feel like the effects of prep. The first like 8 weeks, like really, it's kind of just showing up, ticking the boxes because calories aren't that low, cardio's not that high. Doesn't really feel like you're in prep, but I would literally say as of yesterday, I kind of started to feel it again. And I know like how I'm going to feel, how to go around that, how to not let my mood take out on others, when to concentrate. So like I work in the morning until like 2 and then I'm done for the day. I will not put pressure on myself to do it later. I won't train at night. There's just like so many little things that I'm expecting within myself. And I'm getting on top of it earlier rather than later.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got sort of like a really down pat routine for prep already.
Yeah, I feel like you have to.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to like run us through what your normal routine is in a day? Because I do see on your stories you like get up quite early and go to the cafe and do the work.
Yeah. So I find like I definitely have like two sorts of routines. I have like one if I do sunrise walk, or if I have like one if I sleep in. But I'll just do like today, for example. So today I didn't wake up at sunrise, but I went for a walk with like my friend in the morning. So I'll always try to go for a walk in the morning just to get those steps done straight away rather than staying on the treadmill at night. Because you always forget that. So I'll get up early, literally go for my walk, and then I kind of like try to do some work. I'll never train as soon as I get up. I find that I'm lucky enough that I don't have to do that, but I find I don't have energy behind me. I don't lift as well. And then as soon as I train, I'm pretty much exhausted for the rest of the day. So I try to train like around 2, but I go to cafe, smash out all the hard work first. So that uses the most brain focus, brain function, get that all out of the way. Come home, kind of have like a relaxing like hour or so, eat my food, and then I'll go train. Then I'll pretty much like do cardio after I train. Sometimes I split it up. If I split it up, it's normally because I'm doing cardio late at night. But I tend to do cardio straight after. And then sometimes posing after 2, come home, eat, work, do the little things. So that's more like content creation. So that will be like editing my Instagram stories, editing reels, editing posts. That's like mindless stuff that I can literally sit on the couch and do. And then finish off any steps I have to do. And then pretty much bed and start the day again.
Nice. It's very like, oh, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's sort of similar to what I was doing during my first prep. Just sort of like getting that routine completely down pat. Like all my meal times were always the exact same. And the amount of time I spent at the gym at any one time was kind of ridiculous.
No, it's like some days you need to split it up and other days you can go back to back. Like today I went to the gym to pose with my friend this morning. And then I was standing there, like, do I train or do I go home? And I was like, no, I can't train right now. So I'll go train this afternoon.
Nah, that's so nice that you can do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
In terms of feedback from your first season, do you remember what sort of feedback you were getting from the judges?
I kind of got like a big mixture of things. It was actually really interesting. My posing stamina was one thing that I needed to work on. So they could tell that I was like getting tired in posing, which was so interesting. And I also agree. That was like a huge one. I did not pose enough practicing wise, like even just holding comparisons. You don't really realize you can kind of like do your routine, do the turnarounds, but you don't realize actually how long you have to hold it on for stage. So right now I'm like practicing that and actually putting on this morning. We had like the IFBB show playing in the background and we just like listened to what tone you would call out and would follow it because that's actually a real representation of how long you have to hold the poses for. And it's always longer than you think. So that was one of them. And then the other, I know one of my shows, interesting, it was like my midsection to come in like a little bit tighter, like my lower stomach. And then I think it was just like balance overall, making sure that like my delts didn't overpower my glutes, which is actually interesting because now my glutes overpower my delts. So they've kind of swapped around. So now I've like tapered back leg day and increased shoulder day. So it's like kind of swapped. I would say there's like pretty much those three main things, but leading to IFBB, it's just like completely different. It's literally just size overall now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you feel like coming from that first season, you've achieved the judges' feedback coming into IFBB?
Yeah, I would definitely say I have. And now, but I would say like the judges' feedback from ICM was like no more muscle size. If you need muscle density, go up to fitness.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, yeah, I have, I guess, but moving to a different federation to actually put on muscle size.
Yeah, for sure. And interesting about them telling you your waistline is, or like your lower stomach needs to come in a little bit more. Is that for you usually like somewhere that's the last place to lose fat?
On that specific day, what show was that? That was I think it was AMB. I was actually meant to get my period on that day. So I'd lost my period like I think 6 weeks out or so. But like from like the cycle, what it was meant to be, I was meant to get it on that day. And because my calories had increased a lot heading into the show, my body was like starting to relax. So I think that's just like my guess. I could be completely wrong, but it was like very lower stomach. And I was like, kind of makes sense. But I would definitely say it's like my lower stomach and lower back is definitely the last place to lose it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I guess like when I'm thinking about my own prep and when I was looking at other competitors as well, how some people will come in super lean straight away around their midsection. And for me, during my first prep, that was something I was always so like anxious about because it's the last place I ever lost anything. We'd come in and do like weekly postings and they'd be like,
you'd be like still there.
Lock it in.
Etched out like tie-ins, like these, like they were sharp, like you could cut your finger on them. Her tie-ins were so sharp, but then she still held like this bit of fat at the bottom of her stomach, and we were like, okay, like what do we do now? Because
my tie-ins came in last, like I'm gonna say last 2 weeks. That's only when they came up. So it's so interesting that everyone is so different.
Yeah. Most people I find really push for tie-ins. I feel like it depends on the person. Like my stomach at the moment is like the leanest part of me. But like my glutes like very far away from like having a tie-in as of yet. But then like for you it was the opposite.
Yeah.
See, right now mine's almost changed. My tie-ins are already coming in, which is just like I feel like my glutes are definitely the most leanest part of my body, and then my upper body is definitely like still the most where I need to lose it. So I feel like every shot actually can change as well depending on your body composition at that time too.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So it's almost like you, even having prepped before, you just don't know what to expect from the next one.
Yeah, I do. Like how this prep compares to my last one is completely different.
How long ago did you compete last time?
Pardon?
How long ago was your last comp?
I think I did the same season that you did. Season 2022. Yeah. But like I didn't have abs until I think I never noticed them until the day before my first show. So an NBA show. And like I was just like pulling up my stomach, like looking at my stomach, and I was like, oh my God, I have abs. And I'm like, however many weeks out now, and like my stomach is leaner than it was like stage.
It is crazy, isn't it?
So wild. Yeah, it changes so much. And even like just in general, it's crazy how different your body looks like after a solid improvement phase. And like how your body responds. And like the last time I was this body weight, like I looked nothing like I did now.
Yeah.
It's like I say that to every single client and every single person who's slightly reluctant to like go into a growth phase. Like you underestimate how much like developing more muscle density like affects your whole entire physique. But yeah, it is so interesting.
100%. Like the weight I'm at now, I did not look like that my very first prep, like not even close. And even like my final, I'm pretty sure I was like 1 kilo heavier this off season in comparison to off season. But again, two completely different physiques. Like I even feel like I was leaner this off season, but at a higher weight, which is crazy. And trying to explain that to people who don't quite understand, it's just like, you've got to trust me. Like, I promise you, just trust me and it will work. Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, I think that was a big reservation I had as well. Sort of when I was coming towards the end of prep, was like, when I gain weight again, am I just going to look like the exact same as I did before prep? Like, is there going to be any difference? And Michael the entire time was just like, yeah, trust me, you'll look completely different. Yeah. What advice would you give to first-time competitors?
Literally kind of what you said. Trust your coach and don't compare yourself to other people, especially because I found myself, I would say, like on and off comparing last season, but you could look at someone and you're like, wow, she looks absolutely incredible, and she may not even place. Or you look at someone and you're like, okay, cool, like I feel like I may be a little step ahead, and they actually beat you and come first. And that was like evident the whole time throughout my last season. So it's literally, you cannot compare the amount of accounts I had on like muted, and even now I'm like going through and I put coaches on mute, and I put like actually like my friends on mute as well, especially coaches, because they post all of their athletes, so I won't like see those specific people post what they're doing every day, but like I don't need to be comparing myself. It drains energy out of like my focus. So my biggest advice is literally like, one, trust your coach as well, because a protocol that's going to work for you isn't going to work for another client. Like every single client's on different macros, protocols. They know your body literally better than you know it yourself. So just do everything that they say and don't compare yourself to anyone else, because that will take your focus away from your own prep and you won't be able to actually put energy towards yourself.
I feel like as well, it dulls the whole like prep side of everything. Like you can't be present if you're so fixated like on what everyone else is doing, and then your show day finishes and you look back and you think like, where the fuck was my head like the whole entire time? Like you can't even remember any part of the process. And I feel like the process is literally the most rewarding part, because you show yourself like what you really can do. But I'm the same. I've already got like people on mute. Like same thing with coaches. Like I'm pretty sure Troy's on mute.
Literally about to say, I was like, I muted him Saturday. I was like, I saw someone who looked incredible and nothing gets heard, and I was like, okay, yep, I'm done. I'm out.
It is. And it's like, it's nothing against these people. Like they look amazing, but it is not worth your peace. Like it is not worth losing some peace and increasing like your stress levels because you're worried about them potentially placing higher. And like if they do and they beat you, like they obviously deserve to, like good on them. But it just like takes it too much peace. So everyone.
Like I actually even had one of my friends, well, not someone who I was super close with, but kind of like made friends with like at the show. And she literally said to me, she was like, I actually blocked your account from like get-go. I was like, wow, that is so interesting. She's like, it had nothing against you. It was literally all to do with me. I was in my own head. And so at the end of the day, it actually has nothing to do with the other people. It's okay to it's okay to not follow certain people. You just got to be your own person throughout the whole prep.
Yeah, exactly. And props to her for telling you as well. I was like, you know what? Good on you.
Because it's like, it's nothing against like the athletes whatsoever, because it is literally just you doing, it's like that 1%er. Like if you can manage stress by not seeing what everyone else is doing, like you should be muting accounts. You should be doing what you can to manage stress. And if that means like muting people, then like mute away.
And there's obviously comes a line where it's like comparison can actually be not a negative thing if you use it in a positive way. So if it doesn't come down to jealousy and actually comes down to like, okay, she's doing that, I want to actually better myself, then absolutely it can come in areas like that. So for example, if I go at the gym, go to the gym and I see someone prepping and I know who they are, I'm like, wow, she's training really hard, I want to train really hard. I'm not going to be like, oh wow, she's training really hard, I suck. Will like just train harder. So it can also be used in a positive way. So you've got to like really check yourself as well. It's like, okay, is this actually going to benefit me or take away from the situation? There's like definitely two different sides to it. I also find if I'm starting to compare a lot, there's always an area where I'm actually not showing up to the best that I possibly could. Because if I'm like, oh, well, she's doing that, well, it's probably because I'm not doing that. So that's why I'm comparing myself to.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like we really underestimate how much of a mindset game prep and bodybuilding can be. And instead of having that comparison and taking it as a negative thing, using it even just as a motivator to like do better for yourself.
100%.
Yeah. So you are moving into IFBB this season. What shows are you planning on doing?
So I'm going to do the state Brisbane show, and then I'll fly down and do the national show. So only going to do 2 this season. Like, who knows? I feel like sometimes you can literally be a week out and your coach is like, actually, I want to change things around. You're not ready. You're ready too early, whatever it may be. So it's like, you really don't know until you step on that stage, but they're my 2 goals right now.
Okay, sweet. Do you have any like international competitive plans at this point?
Not this season, but I'll definitely be competing again. And the next time around, I'll definitely compete international. I feel like my first IFBB show, don't have enough density behind me. Don't know how I'm going to come in as well. But 100% the next time I compete, I'll be doing an international show.
Yeah. Do you have any in mind?
I don't know. It's either going to be classic like Japan or the America one. Just like Olympia amateur. I feel like they're the 2 best to do.
For sure. We were speaking with Deborah Morris last week, who did the amateur Olympia in Japan. And she was saying it was literally one of the best competitive experiences she's had.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently the Japan one is run like flawlessly.
Yep.
As well. Like every single person who talks about it says that it's like the most professional show like you'll go to. It was so interesting too, because she was saying how like they ban like you're disqualified if you show up with a wet tan. So you have to wash your tan off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, makes sense. Like, so it doesn't get everywhere, but still, it's so interesting.
I know. It is so interesting because usually when you go to other comps, like there's tan everywhere. There's like
well, they tan in the back room. So it's like literally tan when you walk on stage.
Yeah, literally. I know, it is so interesting. It makes sense, but because it is Japan, everything seems to be like super neat and like clean. So I don't blame.
It's also a huge show. Like, I saw some stories and like even just the people lining up before the pro show, especially. I was like, the line literally goes out the door. That is crazy.
Yeah. And like a decent average seat was like $300 for a ticket. It was $100 for just like standing in the back, I'm pretty sure. Like so far away that you can hardly see them, but like it's $100.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. I thought Australia was expensive.
Yeah, I know. Anytime I was telling like friends and family, it's like, oh, $50, come watch. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I know.
Might be now like 75 or something.
Oh, I don't know. I think last season, I can't remember if it was 50. I'm pretty sure it cost $100 for like 50 for the men's, 50 for the women.
Oh, right, yeah.
I can't remember. Yep. But like the backstage passes, I'm pretty sure are like $250 for your coach.
That's cool. I know.
It's crazy. And then like you've got registration and all of that.
Yeah, literally. I know.
Just coming back to the cost of this entire hobby that we have. Dear gosh. Okay, so moving a bit away from all of the competitive side of things and sort of looking more into your social media and your own business, how did sort of the brand partnership side of things come along?
Yeah. So I started my account, I would actually say it's only 3 years ago now, which is crazy. It was in the middle or the start of COVID, and I kind of did like home workouts, things like that, started posting online, started growing there. I hadn't planned on competing at that point yet. And then as like, I would say like a few months into like posting online, that's when I like started the competing journey. But obviously like through COVID, I didn't really do anything in terms of like growing phase. So I was just moving my body as much as I could. And then just like kept growing from there. And coincidentally, like my best friend Tori at the same time, she started growing her social media. So we just kind of like kept doing it together. I kept keeping each other accountable. And then it just like kept going, and brands would like reach out to me. So I think my very first like the best brand was Right Aware, and that's who I'm actually still with now. And as soon as like I started getting one brand deal, it kind of like went to the next and then went to the next, and you kept growing. I definitely feel like it was a little bit easier to grow at the start, and now it's like definitely slowed down. And I have noticed with a lot of people, it is actually quite hard to grow on Instagram now, unless your videos do go viral, but organically it's quite hard. But I would say it just like kept going, and I kept posting, kept being consistent, did not post on my other account at all. Like I actually have like another main account, I guess you'd call it. So completely moved away from that, because originally the fitness account was on private to start. So like no one could really see. And then as soon as I turned it on public and just like stopped caring what anyone thought, that's when like everything started to change.
Yeah.
And then I would say like as I started competing, obviously your account grows that phase because everyone loves to watch your journey. Everyone loves to see the behind the scenes of competing. And also sad reality, the more shredded you are, the more likes you get. And it does like, I thought that was the most interesting part because going from like being in prep to off season, complete difference. And now I'm also noticing being back in prep, the likes going up again. So I'm like, wow, it kind of like does suck because you're like, well, this isn't my life. And I'm not actually, it's not healthy to be that way, but that's what it's perceived online. It is interesting. So I'm like trying through my off season to be as consistent as I could through posting and actually post like all the highs, all the lows of that as well and be transparent as possible. And I think people really appreciate coming through that whole journey, and the people who actually care about you want to follow all of that as well. But I would definitely say like growth is a lot higher in prep than it is in off season. But yeah, and then I would say last year was when I kind of started to get all the bigger brand deals like Gymshark, Lorna Jane, and things like that, which was wild. I would say I got Gymshark because when I went to the UK, my friend Tori was already with them. So we went to the HQ and then I was like speaking to their managers and stuff. So like that's kind of like that came about. But yeah, that was
because that feels like such a big deal as well.
Yeah, well, especially because they don't really work with hardly any athletes in Australia. Like they're very, very strict on who they work with, and not for a specific reason, but because they're a lot more, I would say, UK and American based. They don't need a lot of Australian athletes. They have like a select few here, like Kelsey and Desi and Annabelle. I feel like they're the main three in Australia at the moment. But yeah, it was crazy. I think like I threw my laptop when I like got the email, and I remember when Tori got at the start of the year, she like calls me at midnight to tell me because obviously time difference. So she calls, what happened? She's like, no, I literally just got Gymshark. I was like, no way. So when it happened to me, I called her straight away. So it's just like such an unreal feeling, being a part of a brand that you looked up to for so long. And I had it on my vision board. That was like an extreme goal. And then like achieve it was just like wild. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially on the like growth side of things, I feel like even for my own page, it sort of came, like you said, when you sort of stop caring and just post your own stuff, post your stupid shit, post all of the lows as well. Like everyone just enjoys people who are so like unapologetically themselves.
Yeah. 100%. I find this prep, I've actually been a lot more reserved in what I'm posting. And I had this conversation with my friend this morning and kind of like had to give myself a little bit of a more of a reality check. But I feel like the bodybuilding industry is very cutthroat and very judgmental. But as soon as you like kind of step away from that, it's not at all. So I've kind of been like, I know I need to focus on like what I want to post and not to make other people happy, because I've been like very reserved in like what I'm saying. If I'm having a bad day, I won't necessarily say it because I'm like, well, it was my choice to compete. And I know other competitors or other like coaches are like, well, it was your choice. Why are you complaining? If you're hungry, if you're tired, you're too far out, whatever it may be. So I've been like, oh, I don't really want to post any of that. Whereas my very first prep, I felt like a lot of people resonated with more because I was so unapologetic myself, because I had no idea about the industry. I had no idea about the judges, coaches, who I was versing. Whereas now I do. And I know that like I follow those people and they follow me back. So this morning I was like, okay, no, I need to completely push out the side and just post everything that I want to post. And it is okay to do that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I know like even as a person who's followed you for quite a while, I definitely appreciated like seeing all of that content as well. Yeah, it's just super interesting because even towards the end of my first prep, like towards the beginning, I was super like, I posted a lot because again, I knew nothing about like what bodybuilding was. So I was just like documenting what was happening. But towards the end, the only reason I sort of stopped posting so much was because I was so freaking tired. I just wasn't even filming in the gym anymore.
I so get that. It's just like I need to show up and I need to get out. Like I can't be editing or anything like that. No, I also agree with that aspect. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, fuck setting up the tripod. That's just not happening.
Not today.
Absolutely not. In terms of your coaching business as well, how did that come about? Sort of explain a little bit about that.
I went to university for commerce, which is like business. So like so completely different. Oh, it's like kind of goes hand in hand what I'm doing now, but like realistically, not really on the same path. So I did completely finished that throughout uni, and then I went into marketing, and I did that through like a brand, but I didn't do the like social media marketing side. I did more of the like the SEO, the blog writing, and all of that aspect, the email marketing. And then I kind of was like, oh, as soon as I started my fitness account, I was like, this is like what I'm really passionate about. And it took me a while to actually take the leap into starting to move my path, because I was like, nope, I went to uni. I need to go down the marketing path. That's literally what I studied for and what I wanted to do my whole life. So when I kind of like took a step back and was like, no, what makes me the happiest? It was training. It was fitness. So I was like, okay, let me do both. I did part-time marketing and then part-time at BodyFit. And I did like that for a few months. And then as soon as I started part-time BodyFit, I was like, no, that's what I want to do. So I quit marketing and then went straight into BodyFit. And that's what I did for about a year and a half, or maybe a year or so. And as I was doing that, I started to like study my Cert 4 so I could be like a one-on-one PT, and then start my like online coaching business through that. Social media definitely helped that online coaching aspect 100%. So as soon as I think I launched my business peak week of nationals, which is really interesting. Why I decided to do that, but I did that. I feel like I had it all set up for so long, and then I was like, yep, why not? So did that for some God knows reason, and it kind of just worked and fell into place. And then as soon as I launched that, I was like, nah, I need to go all in on myself. So quit the BodyFit and just pretty much like worked for myself there on out, and just like learned along the way, because I had absolutely no idea. And it's just been about like trial error, talking to people, finding what works, what doesn't. And I find that's going to be the case like anyone who's an online coach. At the start, you kind of look back and was like, wow, that's really interesting that I did that protocol or that training program or did check-ins via that way. And then I just know in 2 years' time, I'm going to look back to the point I'm at now and think the exact same thing. So that's why I love online coaching, because it's always forever evolving, and you also have to grow in terms of yourself to grow your business.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like even just networking, knowing other people in the industry, seeing how they do things is such an underrated part of it as well. Whoa. Because you can't just like come into this and sort of have your own systems and just be like, yes, this is the best way to do it. Because then I found like even just talking to Michael, how he's learned from other people as well. So that's just super interesting. But yeah, launching the week of nationals.
Yeah, look, I don't know why I put an expression of interest out like a few weeks before that. And then I kind of like slowly got the clients organized and ready to go. So then kind of by the time I had that peak week, it was still like, it was pretty much all set up. And then after that, I went a lot more full on, but like and my coach was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know, it's just working. So we're going to go with it.
Like you're logging your daily stress for the day. There's this one day that's like, whoa.
Literally. But again, being so naive with competing, because I didn't know that that's something you don't do. Like you've got to try to bring your cortisol and adrenals down. Whereas then I was like, oh yeah, just another day in the life, and I'm still competing at the same time. Whereas now, like I know that I probably won't work at all a few days out from nationals this year, let alone launch anything. Yeah.
That's so awesome. That feels like such a boss girl move.
It was good. It did work out well. So that's all that matters.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that's sort of all of the questions I had for today. Do you have any sort of like last pieces of advice for our listeners who are mostly like bodybuilding competitors, especially like first-time competitors type thing?
Yeah. I would say I also like obviously touched on before on comparison and listening to your coach, but I would also say the 1%ers make the biggest difference. So sleep. I know that I love my sunrise walks, but I know they're going to have to slowly cut out, because that is going to sleep is going to be like a huge part to recovery and to letting your body actually keep those cortisol levels and adrenals down. Same as like getting massages, ice bars, focus on like clean nutrition, like everything that you think you need to do and more. There's like always more you can do and always more you can be. So just like keep striving for those 1%ers, because they make the biggest difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's like the second one of this podcast that we're going to have to add to the book.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me on, guys. It was such a good conversation today.
Thank you so much for giving us the hour of your time. So lovely speaking to you. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much.